Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Shanna. So glad you're here today. Now, we are going to be opening up our day 13 from our Spellbinders Crafty Advent Calendar, and I'm just flipping this around to where I can get both hands on there and just get it pulled open. And I thought I opened another one for a minute, then I realized 9 was beside it, and I didn't. It just lifted as I was pulling this one up. So it looks like another 3D or another embossing folder is what we have. And so I'm just going to get it pulled out of there and we're going to get to working with it. So we'll get this box out of the way. And I noticed they actually have like 13 stamped on there with glue, and that's how they stuck it down inside of there. I thought that was interesting. I had noticed the glue before, but none of them were clear enough that I realized that it was actually the number of the day. Okay, so what I've got here are just a couple of strips of craft cardstock, and we're just going to emboss these two strips of craft cardstock. I'm just going to try and get them lined up in there carefully so that I can get it kind of even on my strips. It won't matter because I will ultimately cut them down, but we'll just go ahead and put them in the Scout and get them both pressed, and then we're going to do a technique with them. So we'll just run this through. And this is my bottom plate that you're looking at, so it's pretty rough. The top plate's not too bad, but the bottom plate of the Scout is pretty rough. It gets a lot of use. So there we go. We've got one of them embossed with the detail. We're going to go ahead and do a second one. And so we're just going to line it up and run it through. And I'm going to try and show a couple different techniques that you could use with these, because I did have a subscriber comment that they don't find these to be very useful, but I think you can do a lot of different things, especially if you do like little card sketches and stuff that have strips of paper and everything. I think it's fun to have them embossed. So I've got these two. We've got some good dimension on here. Basically, I'm going to show you, we're going to create two panels like this, where I've swiped some blue on there. I've swiped some brown on there. I even took some metallic and tried it just so I could show you that. Lots of fun ways that you can use these little embossing folders and just have kind of some strips and some little pieces parts for your cards. So basically what I did on the first one with the blue is I used Uncharted Mariner, and this is Distressed Oxide. Those are the inks that I have in my craft room, and I'm just running it along here, and that's why my fingers are all blue as I've been inking these up. So I'm just going to run this. I'm going straight stamp pad to cardstock and just coloring up this design that's on here. Now you'll see it's a little bit messy on the edges, and if you want to keep it cleaner, you're just going to trim that off, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to clean up this Uncharted Mariner off my desk, and then we're going to bring in some Ground Espresso Distressed Oxide, and we're going to basically do the same thing. I immediately had a couple of ideas pop in my head, and that's why I reached for the craft cardstock. And so we're going to get going on this. And I kind of mapped it out ahead of time, and so I had some strips ready that I showed you, and then I thought, well, I want to show the technique, so I'm just inking these up again to show you kind of exactly what I did. So we're going to clean off the desk, and then I'm going to bring in my Spellbinders paper trimmer, which I broke right before the video, before I started videoing, and this piece that holds it down is broken. I'm going to have to get another one, and so I'm going to just hold this panel down carefully and try to get it cut straight. I think I have to cut it a couple times because I don't hold it quite hard enough or quite firm enough on one of these sides. So just getting it lined up, and we're going to give it a good press. There we go. And here's the next one. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just cleaning up the edges where that stamp pad, touched the edges and kind of made a streak down the side. This just kind of cleans it up a little bit. If you want to do like a mixed media and kind of a distressed look, you can leave that on. I'm going to opt for a little bit of a cleaner look here. And this is basically what I did with the other two panels that I showed you. I just cut the roughed edges off. Now we've got them inked up, and you can really see that embossed detail that is on there. So I'm just going to get everything put away, and we're going to get to working on our cards. So I'm just going to bring in my card elements. I've got a card base here. I've got my blue, my craft that I used my Uncharted Mariner ink on. I have got some Spellbinders paper that matches beautifully with it, and I'm going to use it to kind of pair this up. We have got our our floral element that was from earlier in the kit, and we're going to have just some craft flowers, craft cardstock flowers. This cardstock that I've got is called Oceanside. It is a really pretty blue-green that matches very nicely with that Uncharted Mariner ink. And so I'm just going to lay a base layer of craft cardstock down and get it lined up, and then we're going to use this panel, and we're going to layer our embossed panel up on it. And then we're going to bring in our floral elements, and I have already die cut them out and assembled them, and I think they look lovely. I think it's going to be kind of a real clean and simple card, and I really like the results of it. That Oceanside cardstock is just so rich and beautiful. So I've got my strip laid down there, and I'm just going to have a border around there. I cut my panel down to 3 3/4 by 5 and then laid my strip on it, and we're just going to glue this up and get it laid down on our cardstock. And you can see my fingers are blue. I used alcohol several times to try and wipe it off. I went to the kitchen and put some Dawn on, and still, they're still a little bit gluey. They're much better now, but they're still a little bit gluey. Anyway, so I'm just going to take these flowers, and we're going to go very simply with just the craft cardstock color, and we're just going to layer these 3 up on here. And we're not even going to add a sentiment. We're just going to make a note card that could be used for anything. And I think it's very simple and very pretty. Sometimes I like a real clean and simple card. Now, yesterday we had a more busy and involved card, but today we're going to keep it simple. In fact, we're going to make 2 cards today. We're going to use both the blue and the brown strip that we've got. So I'm going to use the leaves to cover up where the stem begins on the other flower, just so that I don't have a stem kind of hanging there. And we'll do the same thing on the third one. So I'm just going to lay my leaf over there and just kind of overlap them just a little bit, and then we'll get the next one down. And I think it's really just a very pretty card. Just get it laid down on there. And that'll pretty much finish up this card. I'm going to clean up some glue. I moved it a little bit, and so I've got a little glue there, so I'm going to use my tweezers to just kind of clean that up. And then that'll basically finish it off. I think it's really pretty. So there's our first one. Now let's just get moving on our second one. This one, we're going to bring in the mushroom stamp and the sentiment. And we are going to do some stamping. We're going to do some very basic stamping. And I will tell you, I stamped it once already and messed it up with the sentiment. And so I flipped it over. I edited that part out, and we're stamping it again. So what we're going to do is use our mushroom, and we're going to use Thank You So Much, and we're going to bring in that ground espresso that we use to ink up our embossed panel, and we're just going to stamp this down very, very simply. No coloring necessary. So we'll get this inked up, and then we'll give it a couple presses, and we'll have a little focal point for our card along with a sentiment. I'm just cleaning off that extra ink that's there because I don't want to mess up my panel. It shouldn't, but I'm just going to take a little ounce of precaution there. So I'm just going to give it a press. And I know in the center of that stamp, it's a little bit harder to stamp down. So I pushed right there in the middle, and I'm going to add some more ink, and we'll just stamp it and press it until we get a good desired outcome. And I'm going to give it another press, and I'm going to call it good. It's not perfect, but I think it's good enough. It's better than horrible. That's what Gina K would say. So I'm just going to cut this down, and I think I wind up cutting it down to, I think I wind up cutting it down to 3 3/4 by 5 as well. And I'm just trying to hold it down. This is where I have to cut again because I don't have that piece on my, I don't have that guard on my guillotine, and it moved, so I had to stamp it or cut it a couple times. But here we go. We've got a nice 3 3 3/4 by 5 panel, and we're going to bring our little piece that we just inked up, and I'm going to cut it down to 3 3/4, and we're going to layer it up on there. And we have got basically the focal point of our card. So we will lay this panel down on the side, and I think it looks good. I mean, right there, boom, you've got it. I'm going to bring in a darker brown, and we're going to get it layered up on our card base, and it will just frame our focal panel. So I'm just waiting for our next big batch of snow to come in. We're supposed to get some really cold weather and some more snow, so we're just waiting for it to start. So I've got plenty of time to be in my craft room and craft, because I certainly don't want to be out in the weather. So you can see I've stamped on the back of that, and I just flipped it over, and I'm going to show you. There it is. And it was the sentiment. The image stamped beautifully, and then the sentiment, it kind of squished on me. So you got to be careful with these because they're pretty fine sentiments, to just give them a gentle press. Ink gently and then press gently, and just ink again if you need to. So we've got 2 very simple, beautiful cards using this embossing folder that was included. So here's a picture. I hope you like it. Thanks for watching. If you do, give it a like. Take care. Bye-bye.